So, good morning. My name is Scott Forcino. I'm with Exp Realty, an associate broker out of New York City and the metro area. I founded PlugIntro for others to meet who they should know, make more and better referral partners. I have with me today Derek Tye, another Exp broker, and he's from Cincinnati. And I want to hear how Derek handles his real estate business, service of clients, working with referral partners, and generally what he's doing that's working. Good morning, Derek.
Hey, how's it going?
Very glad you're here today. So tell me where you are and information that our audience should know.
Well, I'm Derek Tye, Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a real estate agent in Cincinnati and Ohio. We don't the brokers specifically are the licensed brokers, and we have agents and brokers. So I just for the record, I'm an agent. But thank you. Brokers, basically run the shops around here, and then the agents get to be the feet on the street, so to speak. So in Cincinnati, Ohio, there's about 6,000 agents. I've been in the top 1% to 5% of the agents here for the last 18 years. Started in 2004 on my birthday, which was yesterday. So 18 years officially. I've got in the real estate business now, and I've sold about 1,500 and something properties, about 350 million in sales, about $10 million in gross commission income lifetime. So I've had a good run so far. I've got a team of real estate agents that work with me here in Cincinnati. We partner together for buyers, sellers, commercial properties, and we've got a ton of repeat clients, referrals from all over the country, and we're really grateful for continuing to be able to serve people and that people trust us. So that would be the quick summary of what I've got going on right now.
Great to hear. Well, what are you and your team finding with buyers today, getting offers accepted, with the rates that are changing? I mean, any nuts and bolts and what you're experiencing there in your market?
Yeah, so I would say it's all about comparing cost of living, right? So if you're a first-time home buyer, so my oldest son just got pre-approved for his first home purchase, and I don't feel old enough for that statement, but I am. So he's actually 20 years old. That's when I bought my first house at 20. So he's in the trades. He's got a great position as a auto body specialist, and he got money saved up and assets and no debt and a great credit score, and he was able to get pre-approved. So here's a perfect example. So my son, I could say to him, hey, the market's really high, our real estate values are high, like maybe you should wait, maybe this, maybe that. But I can also look at what his alternative is. Like, okay, so if he goes out and rents an apartment right now, he's going to spend about $1,200 a month. He'll have no garage. Well, he's into cars. He has 3 cars that he owns. And he's like, Dad, what would I do with my cars? So instead, in our market, he could find and not let's say the most affluent part of town, he can find like a 2 to 3 bedroom home with a 2-car garage that needs a lot of work. And he might be in that same $120,000 price point, which is, not a fancy house by any means. I mean, these are not great properties, but he can make it something of his own over the next couple of years, right? So for him, he could spend $1,000 a month on a mortgage, interest, taxes, and the principal, right? The PITI, and be living in a home with a 2-car garage, and then he can rent out part of that home to someone else to offset his rent, or he could go rent a 2-bedroom apartment somewhere for the same price. So for him, we take out what's the interest rate. We take out how much our home's worth right now. You just take all that out. It becomes a really easy comparison. How much is it to rent? How much is it to buy? And what makes a better sense for me in my lifestyle?
Hmm. Yeah, I hear I'm seeing and I'm reading that people are saying, irrespective of rates, yes, you can buy the $2,500 a month principal and interest does not buy what it did, even as far as January, but there's so much to do with tax deductions and possible appreciation, especially in the lower markets. You've heard the phrase, I'm sure, you make your money going in. So your son will definitely prosper by improving that property over a small period of time.
Yeah. And even and I told him, I said, if you break even, if you get a partial renter, this is also a learning lesson for you. How do you manage property? How do you pay your taxes, your utilities? What's it like when something breaks? You become handy when you don't have a lot of money. So to me, this is like a trial by fire. There's not a lot of 20-year-olds out there that I see buying homes anymore. My wife and I, she was 18, I was 20 when we bought our first house. And so, we kind of look at this as like normal. And I've served a ton of real estate clients over the years. I think out of 1,500 home sales, we may have sold two to people under 21. And so it's just very rare, even in our market here with
Very.
lower prices, you know. But at the same time, to me, I'm showing him, hey, this is kind of the standard of the family. If you want to get in, get in. And then he can work on this place and maybe he makes a couple bucks. But the way I look at it is, after 2 years, he's exempt from capital gains. So if he can make 10 grand capital gains free at his labor rate right now, that's a lot of hours that saved him, and it's completely tax free. So if he buys a house for 120 and sells it for, let's say, 140, subtracts out some real estate fees, maybe I'll give him a break, and then so
Maybe.
he's whatever that chunk is that he made, he gets to, no capital gains, at least with our current tax law. So where else is a young 20-year-old, someone 20 to 25-year-old person going to make $20,000 tax free? It doesn't happen that often. So that's another one of those benefits where if he would have rented, he would have got nothing out of it, and instead he might see a $10,000 to $20,000 gain, maybe more if the market keeps going up.
Right. Plus rents are moving. So that's even no guarantee there. You're just losing and losing.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's, I could tell you the opposite coin I've seen here. I see people in their 40s and 50s that have never owned and only rented in some of the urban areas. They're really prizing the mobility or their perception of mobility. It seems like based on the salaries and positions, they're okay with the freedom, so to speak, and the loss. It's really it's kind of crazy, but you're right. I've seen that.
And we've had some customers here that are professional athletes for large sports organizations, and they get a 2 to 3 year contract. They don't buy anymore. They used to. They get these 5 to 10 year deals, and now they're getting these 2 to 3 year deals or 1 year deals. So they don't buy, they rent. And so even in Cincinnati, they'll come in for just the season. They might do some Airbnbs, things like that, but they don't actually commit. So
Mhm.
our luxury markets changed a little bit too, because we used to get these, um, you know, sports athletes that would come in and they'd stay in these big mansions and this and that, and then they would leave 5 years, 10 years down the road. You just don't see that anymore either, which is pretty interesting. So those guys
Hmm.
are continually renting. They might have a home base somewhere where they grew up, where they buy like a big house or whatever, and then as they get traded and take different contracts in different cities over their career, they actually just either rent or they do like more of the Airbnb type things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me, with regards to sellers, I mean, people always ask about this. How do you handle multiple offers? Has it slowed down at all? Have you seen any price reductions?
We've seen in our market here, we are seeing a slowdown. And so we're talking in mid-May here of 2022. If this is being watched later, the market, I think, is finally starting to make an adjustment here. We're seeing a little bit longer days on market. Instead of 3, we're seeing 7, right? It's a big difference. Instead of, homes that are seeing 10 offers, we're seeing 2 or 3.
Hmm.
So those are the kinds of things like we're seeing in our market, those little shifts. I'm also seeing price reductions, like you said, like there were almost no price reductions, and then you'd see a couple sprinkled in, and now we're seeing even more. And then total amount of inventory has been at a historic low for 6 months or a year, and now we're finally starting to see the inventory tick up just a little bit. So these aren't drastic signs. These are just subtle hints. I mean, the way I look at the market is I look at a macro and a micro market, and I educate each of my sellers when I go out to list their house. We have to look at what's the signs that are out there right now. And by the time we get your property listed and then get it under contract and then it gets appraised, like we're always behind. So we're kind of doing the best we can to forecast the future. So if I look at the big macro signs out there, we obviously inflation. We see people being laid off on large corporate scales. We see inflation numbers. See interest rates rising. Those are easy signs to pick. Well, then we go to the next level and we start looking at what's happening with luxury items like second homes, yachts. We look at luxury vehicles. Like I actually look at all these other, when those start slowing down, then the next one to come down would be homes and home prices. So usually homes and home prices aren't as quick to react in a market as some of these other areas. So my job is to educate all the employees, all my agents that I work with, the people that are in my EXP group, and then also educate my buyers and sellers about the kind of signs of the times. And then I teach them to interpret it. So it's not up to me, because the last thing I want is for them to go, Derek, you said this, right? And I was like, well, I said to watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. They can make their own interpretations. And I think that's the key with talking to sellers and buyers is like be a person of in a teaching role, and then let them digest the content and let them make their own analysis, because ultimately you want them to own the results of their own conscious thinking versus, well, I thought the guru over here said this. That's the last thing we want to do.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I guess that's my best advice to buyers and sellers right now.
That's important. I think that's interesting. Could you tell us any, off camera, you told me about some interesting or a bit unusual kind of business platform and opportunity that you use at home with the luxury Airbnb and your gentleman's farm there. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's compelling content. I'd love to know more.
So I'd say, if an agent's watching this and they're like, hey, this guy sounds like he's been in business for a while, he's got a nice, amount of business that's happened. I'd say, that is every agent should strive to get past that 2 to 3 year mark, because in that first 2 to 3 years, 80% of all real estate agents fail. And they don't go into the real estate business think, I'm going to fail in 2 to 3 years. This is going to be great. And I'm going to invest all this time and money and take time away from my family on the weekends and evenings and take calls during dinner. Like, no one gets excited about that than with the prospect of failing, right? So what we want to do is I like to educate agents as they're new in the business to say, hey, you need to be thinking 5, 10 years from now, what's my business going to look like? And then try to reverse engineer that into how you're doing business today. One of the best ways to do that is to set up a referral based business. And I teach a class at EXP through the Icon teaching program about building a referral based business. So there are several ways to do that. And Scott, you and I talked off camera about your ways of doing that, which I think are very new and exciting. And I think it takes some of the old classic ways that people have been networking for centuries and then puts it into a modern kind of context, which I think is awesome. But building a local network where you're getting referrals from contractors in your own market is important. Getting referrals from your past clients, and if you don't have a lot of clients yet, you've got to. So I teach about doing events. So just I could give you a few examples, but I'll just talk about one.
Please.
I'll go deep into one thing. So we do event marketing. So about 4 times a year, we have a client appreciation event. And I throw all my sphere into this client appreciation event. I don't just take care of past clients, right? And I think this is helpful for agents who are newer is everyone's your client, right? You want them to be your client. So it's a potential client, it's a current client, it's a past client. So what we do is we pick a venue. For example, we've used like a wine tasting. So we rented out the wine tasting bar, and I sent invitations to everyone I knew. And I said, hey, please join us at our client appreciation event, live music, wine, and charcuterie boards. And so what I did is I went to my loan officer and I said, hey, what are you willing to contribute to this evening? And I'm going to feature you as the primary mortgage lender at this event. And they're the ones, and I give them a job. You're going to check everybody in. You're going to put a name badge on them, and you're going to hand them your card and say, hey, I'm co-sponsoring the event with Derek. And how do you know Derek? And da da da. So it gives them a chance right at the beginning. They get to know their name. They get that interaction with them. And then I have a title company, and I say, would you like to be part of the event? They always say yes. And I say, I'm going to introduce you to another 50 to 100 great people in the Cincinnati area. How would you like to sponsor the music? Oh, we'd love to do that. So they put a little table card over by the live music. We hire a local musician for a couple $100. They write the checks, and I never handle the money, by the way. So the money from the lender goes directly to the wine tasting
Sure,
place.
that's better.
The title company goes straight to the musician, and then maybe there's a charcuterie board, and maybe I take a couple $100 out of my business account. I always keep my personal account and business account separate, and so I basically write a check directly for the food, whatever. So then I've had other vendors, home inspectors. I've had insurance people come out and maybe they'll sponsor dessert or they'll sponsor, you know, beer. Like it's a wine place. Maybe some people want beer, right? Or whatever. So my point is that we go super deep on these events because people are just going to sit around and talk. Oh, how do you know Derek? How do you know the Tye Group? How do you know Exp Realty people? And then they talk to the lender. It's a captive audience. And then what's great about this is we get a pretty small percentage of people that show up, but the perception is I'll send out 1,000 of these invites. I might get 50 to 100 people that show up. Well, that's a success to me because those 900 to 950 people that didn't come, they all were invited to a special event. I stayed in touch with them. I provided value to them, and they did not get a call from me going, "Hey, you ready to buy or sell a house?" They got, "Hey, would you like to come to a free wine tasting event with live music right in your own hometown?" They're like, "Yeah, that sounds great." So, and now they leave. I don't even talk about real estate, by the way, at these events. I just talk to them about them and their family and their sports they're into and whatever. And I just do that to love on them. And then naturally, after the event, they're like, who do we know that's looking to buy or sell a house? We should hook up with Derek. He's a great guy. His team's great, or I got to refinance my house. So that's just one example going super deep in how to build a referral based business in your local community. And that's worked for us for all these 18 years.
And those are fun. I've done them. You left one part out though, where when people see the 1,000 people, they believe, wow, Derek's had 1,000 clients. So whoever comes believes that they're maybe not a prospect and actually a client you've served, and it gives you a better impression and showing that you're the generous one creating this atmosphere. And I believe.
You don't label them, right? You don't say you were a past client, you were a hopeful client.
No,
they're all clients, right? Yeah.
they're all clients. And when people are 50 feet away, they just see another couple. They're not wondering, when did you close? They know that you're associated with the host. And, that's a real point of PlugIntro that I put together that I think in this day and age is critical. And those and events are great, but I can't do events or rely on events to take care of me or my gang 4 times a year. And because we live on these digital platforms, and I believe in really 2 things: where involve everyone, and that just means share your digital space, share a digital position. If I'm not giving away a digital position as someone I know is in business and helping support them, then I'm crazy, because it's selfish and it's needless. If I'm here online in a place that we cultivate, it means create the environment where reciprocity can really occur. If you're not doing that, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, because there's so many things that people are repelling these days: advertisements, cold calls, appointments. If someone can't make that event, maybe they have. I mean, I have something Friday night. I can't make something else. I want to come. It's a good opportunity to reach them on where they are, and that is on their phone, on Facebook. And PlugIntro really just slices a little bit of Facebook out, and it really becomes yours. So when I host my platform, I can't do it 4 times a year. I do it 24 hours, 7 days a week. And people had Facebook before me, but they didn't have this hosted platform of my own. So when you give something of yours and you make people feel special, it's an invitation only. It's a private group. It's actually hard to find. You have to be invited. The secret code, knock, whatever that is. And it's fun. You're connecting with people that you knew, and others are connecting with people they knew. The magic to me is when those people come together who never knew each other. It's just supposed to be fun. It's a people business.
That's cool. Yeah, and I believe in a lot of everything you're saying. I mean, and I've always kept my concierge list for just my clients. So when someone does become an actual contracted client or a past client, I still get calls years and years later. Hey, Derek, do you know a good roofer, plumber, whatever? Right. So having that, I always say, I think Gary Keller had a great statement from stage one time, and he said, there should never have been an Angie's List, right? It should have been the realtor should have, basically had those relationships. And people, when they think of real estate, they should call their real estate agent, who's their life agent, right? And so I had a client reach out to me this weekend and said, hey, I need someone to remodel a bathroom, right? And so they're not asking their network, they're asking me. And I haven't talked to this person in person for probably 6 years, right? but they still think of me as that real estate guy they goes to.
Sure.
So I'm working on. I don't have a great contractor because they're all busy or gone out of business or whatever. It's been tough. So I'm actually going out today and calling my network to say who's someone that's available now that can do a great job for one of my clients. So I'm going to
Mhm.
do the homework for them and then contact them and say, here's someone I sourced for you. Here's another one, maybe a couple of people to interview. And I think that's it's kind of that beyond the basics of customer service that we think of just to get them to the finish line. But the fact that they contacted me, they trust me, and now I've got to honor that trust and help them out. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, plus, like you said, there should have been an Angie's List. Well, for that matter, every agent who dropped the ball was represented by the seller later on. So how could anyone be a listing agent? That every time you're a listing agent, someone didn't cultivate the relationship with their homeowner that they represent when they bought.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you want to talk about Angie's List? That's an internal industry, Angie's List.
Yep. And actually, I've picked up clients not trying at closing tables before. Either the other agent doesn't show up or they did such a poor job. And they said, well, like afterwards, they would call me and say, hey, if we ever go through this again, we're going to go with a real professional. We're going to call you.
Sure,
And so,
sure.
and I'm not soliciting that business. I just did the best job. And it was clear to them that I was not an average agent. And there's a true difference between a professional and not. And so that's where I've been able to build some success and write some books and do some other things, build teams out because other agents in my business have said, "Hey, can I jump on your team and be part of your system and be part of your admin group and have that covering in Cincinnati of you being kind of the name on the sign, and we're happy to take the extra leads that you're not working, whatever." So that's part of this whole referral group and building quality and that's really how I've worked my business. And have I made some mistakes? Heck yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I do my best to try to make quick corrections to those, keep great reputations with my clients, but also with other agents. And then these things just kind of the gift keeps giving.
Right. Well, that's a reciprocal. I call it a continual reciprocal relation,
Hmm.
where people say the value. Well, if when the transaction's over, as you described 6 years ago, that person came back to you, and that's a real way that I think we have to compete. And let me, give you one important point. Between all the venture capital, all the technology, all the investment, there it's like Zillow did. They're bringing consumers to agents. Everything is geared towards the consumer getting the ultimate provider. Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans, having a Super Bowl commercial with $30 million for a minute. So all the effort is going to disintermediate you. The trust is under attack. There is not money that is backing making a difference to your local contact, colleague, or client. So people in your industry, our industry, and in your area, they have to really make a huge effort because we're attacked from all sides. And
Oh, definitely.
millennials are not looking for their realtor on their phone; they're looking for their house on their phone. And Carvana, Grubhub, the Indeed. You want a job, you want a meal, you want a bed, you want a ride, Uber, Airbnb, everything's on your phone. And all the effort is going to connecting those people with providers. Nothing's going to connect us with each other. That's why we have to do it.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's powerful. Well, thank you for coming, Derek. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot online and offline with you. Can you give us the best way to reach you with email, phone number, or
Yeah,
website?
sure. So DerekTye.com, DerekTye.com. We have all of our businesses, books, podcasts, Airbnb properties, ways to connect with us on there. So that's kind of the hub for all the businesses that I own. And I've been very fortunate in my business life to meet a lot of great people. And I appreciate the introduction today. And thank you for the platform to be able to help people hopefully get a little nugget of truth here and there that will help them in their business.